And we're live.
And we are live. Episode 165. It rhymes. Like it.
There you go.
Like it. Welcome, everybody, to episode 165 of Live at the Hive Digital Marketing from the Trenches. I am Dan Nedelko.
Matt Stefanich.
I'm Sachita Gadekar.
Awesome. Awesome. And today we are talking about how to test and optimize. Let me get to the title. Facebook campaigns for e-learning and e-commerce, and why it's so important, why it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, so Sachita's here this week to kind of give her expert insight and also some explanations too. I think you added some really good examples in the slides, Sachita, so it'll be nice to kind of go over those this week and dive in.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So I think, are we going to do a little bit of what's new first, or what?
Yep. So we can do a little bit of what's new. So this week, YouTube is kind of testing the waters and putting in some clips into their live streams and VODs. VODs being video on demand, so previously recorded videos that were live. And I think a lot of other platforms doing this, like Twitch does this regularly. More so Twitch uses it more for Amazon ads, but I think a lot of people are comfortable with watching ads in the middle of live streams, and it also kind of gives content creators a little bit more of incentive to push maybe a subscription where ads don't play. But I think this is a great way. I mean, if there's a podcast that you know of that does a regular live stream and they get some really good live viewerships, might be worth kind of exploring that and putting some ads in.
It's also, I mean, this is a direct shot at Twitch. Facebook actually has the ability on videos as well, but only you can create clips. I'm assuming here that anybody can create a clip. Yeah, anyone can create and share a clip. So that's pretty much a Twitter feature as well. So that's going head to head with the in the Twitter versus YouTube streaming wars. So interesting features for sure. Something to check out.
Yeah,
possibly make use of.
For sure. It'll be great for churning out more content. Yeah. And then next up, just some little changes to TikTok right now. They're adding in some ways where people can add more links into your posts and kind of interact with some third-party platforms. So they've started with Quizlet. So right now, what a lot of teachers are doing, and just people who want to engage with their followers, are creating these Quizlets that people can take right on TikTok and gain some information there. So definitely keep an eye on this to see if they add any other platforms in the future, but definitely some good interaction updates.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's an interesting play, especially today. We're talking about e-learning and e-commerce. This is a great way if you're building up an audience on TikTok to increase that engagement, and also to potentially give people a little bit of a shot over the bow if you're selling a course, for example. But you could apply that to almost any use case, really, to gain that interaction.
Absolutely. And then I think before we dive into our what's working, I think you said that you wanted to mention one that popped up this week.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about, and you can pull up whatever you want on this one. Wall Street Bets subreddit has managed to move markets in unbelievable ways. And, catching the ire of hedge funds who like to short, who are now being short squeezed. The thing I just wanted to kind of point out about this is literally, we're in the early days of the internet, really, if you think about it. This is really a great example of democratization of communication. That's what it is you have thousands and thousands of people using communications tools. Wall Street Bets is one of them, to communicate and en masse completely move a market. And it's got the old guard completely up in arms.
Well, I think that there were people on TV that were actually quite upset about it on the financial networks. It's insane. Yeah.
But this is really what the effect of the internet is in that ability to mass communicate. And you know what? As much as they're saying, well, they're just inflating the price of whether it's GameStop or AMC, there's a whole bunch of examples there. Really what it is some people are in fact saying, I'm going to put $1,000 on AMC because I do believe that movie theaters are going to come back very strong. The other offshoot of this is absolutely fascinating is it's potentially going to provide the liquidity required for those companies to make it through where they may have died. So it's absolutely fascinating, but it's really interesting to kind of see how, 10 years ago and even 5 years ago, people would say, well, that social media thing is awfully cute. Reddit is a place for single guys that live in their mom's basements, which is absolutely not true. Interesting Twitter thread on this is that I can't remember her name, but she ran an audience analysis of the Wall Street Bets subreddit from socials that they could find, and 46.8% of them were females between 24 and 35.
Wow.
So the notion that this is some kind of a, white male
organization and stuff,
is absolutely not true. So fascinating times, interesting to look at, and just being in digital marketing, these are the kinds of things that I live for, is seeing how our technology and the mass communication and mass adoption actually changes everything in all aspects of our life. So
for sure. Well said. Absolutely.
Yep. And go buy some Ethereum if you're smart.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right, let's dive right in.
With that, we got to dive in because this is we got a good show today. But so diving in, let's talk about why you should advertise on Facebook and Instagram. Basically, Facebook has become one of the largest platforms, if not the largest platform right now. Last updated, it's 2.7 billion monthly active users. And again, it's used for social networking, advertising, marketing strategies. You know the deal. We already know what it's used for, right? So in this presentation, what we'll be doing in this live, we'll be talking about, why consider e-learning and e-commerce. We'll kind of reiterate the see, think, do, care strategy, how that works in. Then later on, Sashita will be helping us go through some marketer knows case studies, as well as some personas, journey mapping, Facebook targeting, developing strategies, Facebook optimizations, how to create audience, and then finally, Facebook shops. So we have quite a bit to talk about today, but
for sure,
I think that we'll be able to get it all in.
Yeah, I think the thing that to just keep in mind from a higher level is this does apply to anybody, but specifically with a raft of small businesses going on to, and businesses, period, taking e-commerce much more seriously during the pandemic. And also the absolute rise very quickly of online courses and learning platforms and people creating absolutely new businesses for themselves. It's really important to understand how Facebook as a platform works when you're advertising, because if you're not using audiences, you're doing it wrong, and it's it can cost a lot of money. So let's kick into it here.
So let's talk about whether, businesses should be going online. We know that that's the next step within your business plan, is making sure that you have a really strong online presence. But why do people do this? So, it empowers your customers and your business, and it also increases the reach and resiliency of your business. Do you want to continue on that?
Not really. I think that we don't need to justify why businesses should go online. We're going to post a link to this presentation after the fact, so you can grab this, but we're going to jump through some of the justifications. Maybe you can use this if you're trying to justify, the Facebook, Instagram paid program, and that could be part of it. But I think some of this stuff is, scalable, always on, engaging if you create the right kind of content. Those are all the benefits that we have there.
Absolutely. And then again, like we were talking about throughout the case studies, we'll be talking a little bit about the see, think, do, care strategy. We should all be familiar with that if we're a regular watcher of Live at the Hive. If not, feel free to go through the slideshow once the bees posted into the chat. So without further ado, let's start off with our case study. Okay. So first off, Marketer Knows. Again, if you don't know what Marketer Knows is already, it's a community of digital marketers who've gotten together and they've created kind of marketing messages, courses, and resources for entrepreneurs. It's a free to join community, and it provides roadmaps, courses, and some really great guides. It's free to join. Basically, stop Googling your digital marketing strategy. That's the kind of the idea, and also communicate with other marketers in the exact same position. So, absolutely. Alrighty. So first off, we're going to be looking at, who's our brand persona, and basically how we can resonate with Ben, and how we can get into, a broader audience and resonate with that audience.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about this, and we're gonna probably jump a little bit through. Also, one of the things to keep in mind here is, and I noticed this as I was listening to our podcast that is actually on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. So feel free to hit us up there and subscribe. Is that we also have to talk through what we're looking at on the screen here in the live stream. So this is a persona that we have developed. You can grab the download. We'll put a download link in the description, wherever it is. We're not going to delve into the persona development, but we will put references to where we have talked in depth about how to develop a strong customer persona and customer personas.
Yep.
So that's kind of step one. You can refer back. Same thing. And sorry, Sashita, you will get a chance to talk when we get to we're trying to cut through the background a little bit here and get right to the good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You definitely do want to create a customer journey map so you understand where your customer starts and where they end from their journey points, and how you can solve their pain points and their problems. Again, we covered that basically in an entire episode, I believe.
Yeah, that was an entire episode that we went into that infographic in quite big depth. And then just talking a little bit about, why it's important to, create these buyer personas, what they do, and how you can narrow them down.
Yeah. And the real reason we're talking about this as we get into crafting your Facebook and Instagram strategy is we're going to use content creation and storytelling that will hopefully, we want to create that content that resonates with our target audiences, and be able to connect with them on a one-to-one level.
Yeah, and this right here, this slide is why you need to focus on the stuff that we showcased previously about creating your buyer personas. And it's basically to make sure that when you do fill out your audience within your Facebook ads, that it's accurate to what you're trying to look for.
Yeah, so Sashita, maybe you can walk everybody through this one a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I think as step one, before even we start talking about marketing on Facebook or Instagram or for any e-commerce businesses as well, we have to develop or understand who our audience are. It is absolutely critical to know who your audience base is, and then accordingly frame your strategies on Facebook that would help to reach the audience.
Now, there's some clever things you can do with audience building here. So when we're looking at Marketer Knows as an example, what we've identified is that there is a massive amount of frustration that individuals, marketing managers, business owners have with digital marketing. It's the speed of the platforms, the complexity that seems to exponentially grow on a regular basis. And so that's the motivation. So if we look back at some of these audiences, obviously people who match, this is a basic audience, but there's some other things that we can add into audience building. And this is specifically within Facebook for Business and the Business Manager. You can access this. So for example, another audience that we would start with on this would be maybe people who follow Gary Vaynerchuk, or people who follow duct tape marketing. Or even people who follow digitalmarketer.com, which would be considered, it's not exactly a competitor, but it's very much in the same space. And so the goal here is to not just throw our ad up on a massive platform that has whatever 2.7 billion active users, and not hit the correct audience. And there's a ton of different signals you can use when you create your saved audience. So that is step one, is to get in there and create that saved audience.
Absolutely. And then step two is obviously developing your strategy on how you're going to get people to buy these products, how you're going to get the ad in front of them. So Sashita, I'll let you kind of take more so the lead now as we kind of get deeper.
Yeah. So Facebook does offer three main ad objectives. That is awareness, consideration, and conversion, which is again divided into brand awareness, reach, depending on where your customers are in the customer journey, and how would you like to target your audience.
Yeah. So at the top of this, and we're going to look at the See, Think, Do, Care framework. On the left-hand side there, you've got the awareness. When you're starting campaigns to build these audiences, start with the awareness side of it. You want to do reach and brand awareness as one of the two. You could also, on the consideration side, I would suggest starting with video views and creating short, engaging videos that's going to be attached to your audience, and then you can then create new audiences from people, for example, that watched more than 50% of your video. And the reason is that at that point in your campaign, when you're starting, do not try to sell your core product to a cold audience. We need to warm the audiences and develop a relationship with them so they know who we are. And it's absolutely critical in terms of your strategy on social to be taking this approach as opposed to just trying to go for the kill. That's where content marketing, organic and paid all come together to blend into like a jambalaya that works all together. Don't look at them as separate things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that there's definitely a structure that's similar to the See, Think, Do, Care, where obviously we have attract, engage, convert, and delay, right? That's basically the process of your template. And like you said, you're not going to put, a convert above attract, right? It just doesn't make sense. It's not going to work. So it's important to understand these fundamentals.
If we just jump back one quickly, when we get down to there's a lot of really good Academy of Ads is a good one. Ad Skills, those are two actually very good communities that focus specifically on Facebook and Google advertising, but PPC effectively. When you get to the conversion stage and you're targeting a conversion to the audiences that you've built up in the other areas of your funnel here, always go for the conversions as your ad objective. Okay. Strongly suggest you do that. And don't change objectives too frequently. You will mess up the AI. That's being worked on. Okay.
For sure.
Cool.
Okay. We went over this guy a bit. The importance of the structure. And now we're getting into creating your custom audience.
So basically what happens is as you start by building up your audience data. So imagine that, every time somebody interacts with one of your top level awareness ads, they're getting added into these groups, right? And that group is going to grow and you'll see the numbers grow. That's why it's good to start with things that have a very low friction for the user. Video views are great for that because there's not a very big ask, right? And the more engaging your video is, the faster that group is going to grow. Okay. You can also, if you've got a really great download and you can reduce friction, Facebook lead gen ads are good, but just absolutely minimize the number of fields you're asking for there. And then from there, you can slice and dice your audiences into custom audiences based on what it is that they did in the first stage. I don't know if you have want to add anything there, Sashita.
Yeah, for sure. I think adding your pixel code to your website is the main and the basic point before starting to launch your campaigns, because then Pixel will collect all the data, and whether your campaign works or not, you have earned your, you've built your audience lists, and you've built your, you have all the information, so we can definitely again use it in your future campaigns.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind is that, so you've got offline events, you've got your Facebook pixel, and then you have events that happen on Facebook. All of those things work together to create your custom audiences. And there have been a lot of accounts that we've delved into that absolutely have no pixel set up at all. And that's where you start to throw them. That's when you're just gifting Facebook money.
Pretty much. You want to make sure you have that foundation before you go through. And there's also other ways that you can convert your audience and grow your audience. And one of the ways that we do that is with lookalike audiences. So Shashita, do you want to kind of go through the slide for lookalike audiences?
Yeah. So we did mention that, adding pixel to your websites, it helps you build those audiences and get the information. But I think there's a right time to use these lookalike audiences in your Facebook campaigns. Only then it will work. So what Facebook recommends is to have at least 25 conversions per day to create a lookalike audience. And when you are importing your customer lists to create a lookalike custom audience for Facebook, then we have to have, at least 5,000 people in your list. Like, you cannot just upload 200 and try and make the campaign works. It's Facebook will need a lot of efforts to reach or get find audience, and that would make it costly for us.
So one of the things to keep in mind that's very important is one of the most powerful tools that Facebook has. Matt, I'm going to throw you an image here. Is a lookalike audience will allow you to set a number of criteria. So you have your audience, let's say it's 5,000, let's say it's 10,000. It could be a lot bigger than that. The bigger, the better, because the more data you have in your audiences that exist, the more accurate and better your lookalike audience will be. And what that does is it basically says, what you're saying to Facebook is, hey, I want to, are you on Slack right now, Matt?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to throw this in the channel.
Cool.
Just do that. There we go. It's just I'm just pulling up a screenshot of what a lookalike audience looks like in the interface. There you go. It's in the traffic channel.
Awesome.
Okay. So what it allows you to do is to say, I can pick from Canada, the US, any geography I want. And I want you, Facebook, to look at anywhere from 0 to 10% of people in these locations. So you select your custom audience, right? Or you select your page as a source. Then you can create geographic regions to target, which I would probably suggest. And then you can range from 1 to 10% of the total population. And what Facebook is going to do beneath the surface is it's going to say, what are the common profiles of all of these people? And how do I find people that are not in this audience to now create this lookalike audience? Now, the larger the number, the lower the accuracy, right? So if you say 10%, you're going to get a bigger number, but you will soften the accuracy a bit. But if you have if you've got a smaller audience, you might have to pull it up a bit, right?
Yeah, so it takes some time to feel it out too with your audience sizes, right? I mean, you're gonna know once you launch it whether the 10% or 4% is the better way to go.
Honestly, if you want to be I would set up from 1 to 10. And for various geographies, having lots of lookalike audiences is a great way to run tests against your audiences to see what is happening. And running small pilots can be $10, $15, $20, maybe a little bit more. But if you want to get an idea of how things are delivering and the reach it's getting on Facebook, especially with your brand awareness. Again, building at the top level to the larger audiences on your brand awareness will help you filter. So if I'm going to use video views as an example, I want people to view that video. So I create an engaging 1-minute video that will hook them within the first 3 to 5 seconds. Okay. Very critical to get that autoplay and get them to stick. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that to a wide audience and then build my custom audience. Then I'm going to slice and dice my custom audience further. And then hopefully I have enough, I can create a lookalike audience and several lookalikes to, again, run additional tests. That's where you're going to expand the reach, right?
For sure.
Before you start even going for the conversion side of your funnel. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Cool. Awesome. And then what are the ways to really increase the engagement of the audience that you're creating, whether it's a lookalike or your first custom audience, would be to create some video content, right? We know that, video content outperforms static images, obviously higher engagement rates, and, it optimizes to get the most plays out of your video ad. And we actually have a video, the B's included one here, a quick way on how to kind of create these videos. And maybe we can just talk about it while this video kind of goes through.
Yeah, I placed the video here. So I just wanted to, show what Facebook offers when anybody watches your videos through your campaigns, how we can collect these audience and what type of, Facebook has offers you like users who have watched your video for 5 seconds to write to people who have watched your entire video. We can target these audience in different ways. And also, if you look into the Facebook analytics, you can understand which was the most engaging part or time of your video, and accordingly, use it for your future campaigns.
Yeah, and that's a great point. There's a lot under the waterline. It seems like, oh, well, I'm just going to have a video. But when you get into it, you can have several video IDs. So for example, if you've got 30 videos or 40 videos or hopefully more, you can enter all of those video IDs in there to help slice and dice that audience. And you can find the people that are the most highly engaged by adding parameters around it. So that's a great, it's a great example there.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Next, we're going to be talking about how to convert your audience now. So now that we have the audience built, we have some really good engaging content. How are we going to engage these people?
That's right. And we're going to start with a lead magnet.
Yep. Absolutely. So first thing to do when you're doing your lead magnet for like your landing page or anything that you're filling through, or creating a dedicated page, again, make sure that you have that Facebook pixel and making sure that you're promoting this content through a means where people can access it easily, and you're not giving them asking too much information from them.
Yep.
So for an example here, we can see the marketer knows example here.
Yep. There's a couple of points on this as well. This is just a sample, so just giving you an idea. Lead magnets are a great way if they're informational, very easy to get to. And again, you're targeting people that you've already gotten through your brand awareness. The other method that you can use in this case is a Facebook lead gen ad. Have it connected to your marketing automation platform. As soon as they register, you can have an automation that will be connected, right? And then your marketing automation platform can straight away send it to them. So you don't necessarily even need the landing page at that point. You can use the Facebook lead gen form. Yeah,
and Sashita, you've run some recent campaigns that uses the Facebook lead gen form, and it's performed quite well in our campaigns.
Yeah, exactly. Just the last week, we launched like a bunch of campaigns. Actually, all the lead form, they were basically all lead form campaigns. They did outperform just the conversion campaigns as well. And like Dan mentioned, we nurtured them and warmed them through email marketing, gave them constant reminders, basically guided them through the journey so they know what they have to do in the next steps.
Yeah, for sure. So here's an example from Marketer Knows. So Marketer Knows, really what the idea is we have popular free guides. They're ungated. They're really there just to give some better information. But we also have roadmaps. You join a free community. It doesn't cost anything. And these roadmaps are very, very practical. They answer the top questions that people have. How to create a landing page step by step, how to create a social media content calendar step by step, how to create a persona. And it's got templates and everything else. So if we go back up, you can see. So one of the things that we're really looking at here is a very low barrier to entry. We're not asking anything of a potential community member at Marketer Knows. We're actually offering them a lot of value for absolutely no cost, right? Modeled very similarly after MailChimp's Forever Free, which that's been around for years. But when they did it, it's not so novel anymore. But when they did it, it was extremely novel, right? That helped accelerate their growth. So yeah, some great examples. Oh, one other thing just to kind of touch on a little bit up there. On the ad examples. Yep.
Let me just pull these up. There we go.
There you go. On the mobile feed, Sashita put these together as a great example. Instagram and Facebook stories are a very strong channel at the moment and have been since they launched. But don't limit yourself to just a right-hand side ad. That's the most important thing. You want to run on a ton of different channels. Let the tests dictate where you go. Don't let your own preconceived notions dictate where you think you should or shouldn't go.
Absolutely, yeah. Because sometimes when that happens, you're not going to hit the right places, and the places that you're ignoring might be the best ways to get those leads and the conversions.
Yeah, assumptions and this goes for I think all of marketing, but assumptions, personal beliefs, personal biases. I don't like TikTok. I don't like Instagram. Only kids use Instagram. is the death knell for an effective marketing program, because you are going to, without testing and just saying, hey, millions and hundreds of millions of people are using TikTok, for example, or Instagram, then, test there and you might be surprised.
Absolutely.
Another important thing we can walk through here, and Sashita can walk through this, ads account structure is critical to success. I'm very ornery about this kind of thing.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think, especially when you're running multiple campaigns at the same time and you're running test campaigns at the same time, it's very necessary to organize your ad structure, not only depending on the ad placements or your audience targeting or location targeting, but also if when you're testing interest-based audience with a lookalike audience or any other custom audiences, it's generally preferred to keep these separate. Otherwise you won't know if which of these is performing better. And also when you are running, the higher ranking audience should exclude the lower ranking audience, otherwise they're going to get mixed and your analysis is going to go wrong.
So keep a tight structure. We probably have a couple of templates that we can share about how to structure complex campaigns, but if you start with a campaign structure from the beginning, that's absolutely critical.
Absolutely. Ready? Next, we're going to be talking about ad placements, right? So mobile versus desktop. Sashita, I'll let you talk about this one as well.
Yeah, I think ad placements, generally they've been taken for granted. Sometimes you just let Facebook do its job and, run automatic placements. But what I have observed is I go manually in and check which placements are doing well after the campaigns have been running for a week or two, because even if it's running on campaign optimizations, Facebook generally doesn't, add your, allocate your most of the budget to the ad placement that is performing well. So you need to kind of separate these campaigns specifically for specific ad placements that are working correctly. For example, even Facebook right column ads, they work best on desktop. So I would create a separate ad group and test it against the ones that the other ad placements.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing, we're talking a lot about the tactical side of Facebook ads and structuring your campaigns, and it's important to remember that. So for example, when you're putting together your video ads and you're thinking of a Facebook story or an Insta story, create the video so that it fits that format. And be engaging. Don't just take one video and toss it up. Don't put 16:9 videos on a vertical 9:16 format, for example. So you may have to create variations of this. But as important as the technical setup of this is, the storytelling component, what you're doing during that customer journey is critical to your success. You have to write engaging copy. Storytelling copy works. You'll see some of them, it can get a little bit used car salesy. Some people go to an extreme, but you don't have to go to that extreme as well. But customize your content for where your audience is and who you're talking to in this example.
Absolutely.
Okay,
for sure. So here we'll just be talking about some ad set optimizations as we're starting to close through. Sashita, I'll let you kind of go through this infographic.
Yeah, as we've talked about setting up the audience, creating custom audience. Then we have set up a campaign structure. And once you launch these campaigns, it is necessary to keep monitoring and optimizing these regularly. You can't just leave a campaign out there to run by itself. And, as you monitor these every day, there are a few tweaks here and there which, enhance the performance tremendously. Than just leaving the campaign out there. So, monitoring or rotating your ad creatives. If your campaigns have been running for long and you have an ad frequency of more than 1.5%, 1.5, then you should change and rotate those creatives just to keep your ads fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few other things too. Facebook for Business has the ability to run formal tests within the platform. So do that and create variations so that you can use the AI provided to you to have a champion challenger structure to your campaigns. Don't just create one ad and put it up and say that's the ad. You should create multiple variations. If you are interested in heavily testing, Ad Espresso is a fantastic platform to scale and create massive ads. I remember a few years ago, we were creating 40 to 50 variations. So what we would do is we would create a set of 10 images, set of 10 different messages, let that run, find the most, the top performers. And then what Ad Espresso would allow us to do is it would actually create different subcategories. So females between 24 and 35 with a college education, right, in this location. Then females between 24 and 35 with a high school education, you know, and it kept going and going and going. And it would run micro tests against and find the one that allows you to get the highest performance, which we can then put into production. This was, it's in a bunch of our videos. Our former team member thought it was pretty cool, but we were generating video views for 0.01 cents per like 10 second view by using that testing technique. And we were able to generate tens of thousands of actual signups. So just a point on that.
For sure. And then just closing out before we go, we want to talk about Facebook Shops and why you should be using Facebook Shops, investigating it, and learning the platform of it. So Sushita, I'll let you take this one as well.
Yeah, so talking about e-commerce, I think Facebook Shops is a great platform to explore and put your products out there, because most of our people are browsing through Facebook, and Facebook Shops basically has zero investment costs.
Yeah.
You can advertise to so many people at, or you can reach them organically. And yeah, and also it gives it helps you optimize your ads as well, and then you have a lot of reporting and analytics data out there to see which ones are performing well and which are not.
For sure. And I think I'll before Dan gets it, I'll just say that I think that Facebook Shops, they're relatively new to the platform, right? So whenever you're putting your products on there, whether there's new features that gets introduced to the platform, it's a great way to also organically push your content, and putting a bit of paid spend behind them to boost it would be a great strategy.
For sure. And I think there's a couple of things here. Facebook Shops reduce the friction. They're relatively new, but this has been building for well over a year, maybe even longer. Instagram shopping bags, and then they're rolling this stuff out, and Facebook catalogs for e-commerce as well. The goal is to eliminate the friction, to have somebody go to your website and then start the checkout process. As they roll through this, it's going to be a seamless experience, so that you wouldn't have to leave the platform in order to complete your purchase. From an e-commerce perspective, from an e-learning perspective, there also Facebook is has rolled out various features that groups can use to implement e-learning. So if you've got a training platform and you got a Facebook group, you can put some effort into converting those people by creating kind of a very light e-learning site to pull them into premium content and maybe premium trainings, and then get them over into your actual paid offering. These are opportunities, I think, that you don't want to be chasing when it becomes super popular. When they finally roll out, say, but my prediction is what it's going to be is kind of like an Amazon one-click, but on Facebook, where you won't even have to leave. You could just say, that shirt, that purse, bam, I want it. And your order is going to get processed through your store. They're not going to have to leave Facebook at all. I say within a year, that's going to happen, because Facebook sees Amazon eating its lunch, and I think Zuckerberg wants to be number one on that list, the world's wealthiest.
Yeah, and I mean that's why it's important to adopt these, these early additions to Facebook and other social networks, right? You want to make sure that you're established on it for, when the big update hits, so to speak, right? So.
All right. Well, it's 4:59. I think we did a pretty good job of staying on target.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully everybody got something good out of today's live at the Hive. But we will be putting this content with links up so you can grab the presentation and some of the resources we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Another great live, and next week, I think at 166, right?
166. Yeah.
There you go.
Sushita, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, and I've actually got a bunch of interviews we're lining up. I've been tweeting at some of my marketing Twitter friends, hoping to get Kevin Indig on soon.
Awesome.
And a few others. So we're just working on that. And yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great weekend. Yep. And we'll see you next week on episode 166 of Live at the Hive, Digital Marketing from the Trenches.
See you then.